So much to talk about in this video, but I will start by saying that the opportunity that you, right there, watching this video, that you and I have is incredible. This is an Ethereum chart zoomed out on the weekly. If you want to get a sense of what the data is saying, here's what I think it's saying. I think it's saying we're somewhere around here. We're somewhere around here. We are not right here, about to enter some crazy bear market. In this video, I want to discuss the macro. I want to do analysis on the Bitcoin charts, the Ethereum charts, and the ADA charts. Even from a short-term perspective, there are important things happening right now as we get set up to go into this new week. So please hit the subscribe, hit the like on the way in. If you're not in our intelligence system, get back there. I just want to give a quick mention and update. We've added DOG, the #1 meme coin on Bitcoin. It's going to be, in my view, one of the best plays of the cycle if you have that risk tolerance. We've added a risk model for DOG. So you can be in the exit planner back here. You can start, messing around with strategizing your profit taking, but now you can utilize our risk model for DOG to do that. And we have a ton of other altcoins back here. So we have 40% off sale going on right now. Check it out if you're interested. But let's dive into the charts. And I want to start, this is very important. If you want to cruise around, hit the timestamps if you want to go just check out Ethereum, Bitcoin aspect of the video. But this is very important. Here's where we are. This isn't just a macro cycles of crypto thing. This is a macro cycles of everything thing. Let me explain. Right now, and I should actually set the tone with this post that I just saw. US Treasury bought a record $10 billion of its own debt. They're printing money. This is the beginning of it. And I want to show you something. I had it marked on this chart, actually. You see right here, I said, Fed started buying treasury bills. Right here. This was coming out of that tariff panic of 2018. Remember, we just had a very similar thing happen, right? But notice what else was happening. There was Fed policy reassurance. There was the end of QT on the horizon, right? As we're coming out of that high fear environment. This is right where we are right now, a tariff capitulation and very similar things. This green line I have here is kind of like the slowing down of quantitative tightening. This top back here, the beginning of even the last crypto bull market and going into the crypto bull market was quantitative easing ending and getting ready to go into multi-year quantitative tightening. So I'm trying to paint the picture as we start continuing into the analysis aspect of these charts. And I want to actually mention before we start looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano, I want to mention, notice we came out of the capitulation and you can just see just kind of the higher low at the moving averages on the weekly was a very important back here in 2019, even coming out of the March 2020 swing low, important to test these moving averages. If we go look at the chart now, you can kind of see these moving averages are they're squeezing together, but we might test that, right? So even on the short term, we could have sideways, we could have consolidation, but I think there are very big things coming. And I think this is a very little hint of that. US Treasury buying $10 billion of its own debt. And so we have it, we are waiting. And maybe some of you are tired of me going over this and looking at this chart, but this is what I'm continually reminding myself of as I make my own macro decisions. This is the Fed balance sheet, and we are waiting for this to start expanding. If we go to Bitcoin, I want to talk about this post. I just saw Kevin earlier, and he had another post the other day we were kind of doing some analysis off of, and we're actually going to look at that on the daily. But he said, I don't think people realize that Bitcoin just completed its most significant retest of 100,000 and held it. It's the first time we've dropped 10% into the $100,000 zone and immediately turned it into new support. Major bullish signal. $100,000 is the new floor. So if we go look at this chart, this is the daily. I want to make a mention on the short term what is happening. On this quicker moving momentum oscillator, we've fallen into oversold, and we are starting to pivot out of it at a time where we're breaking this trend. And this was a post I highlighted from Kevin the other day. This trend line on the daily. Bitcoin might be right now, today, as we're watching watching the charts, and I'm doing this video, in the beginning of a breakout. What I'd be cautious of currently, even with the daily candle, is this 20-day moving average just above 160,000 or 106,000. Maybe we get continued consolidation. Maybe we have to even just put in another low. And what's happening on the RSI, the slower moving momentum oscillator, if Bitcoin starts falling, right, and needs to test the 200 in the 90s, 100,000 might fall. What's the RSI doing? Are we getting a higher low bullish divergence potentially in play as price falls lower, RSI higher low? That could be the setup for the next move up. But these are things we can watch in the short term. But on the zoomed out, playing into the story of where we are in these cycles, just an insane chart to me for so many different reasons I've been talking about. But I do want to add caution, as you know, there's so much macro bullishness on all of these charts. 20-day moving average or 20-week moving average down here, right? 50-week moving average down here at 82, but that 95 areas, that 20-week, and we just touched on that on the daily chart. I would just have it in play. I should say I have it in play in my mind for all of these reasons that we just discussed. But I want to look at a couple altcoins, and here's the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin. I posted about this a little bit earlier. Our risk model right now at a 20, everybody. And my post on X, I was just, and tell me if you agree or not, but I'm just saying our risk model is showing a 20. There's so much data here on this chart. We are, from this data perspective, it's pre-bull market range. But the thing that I was adding in my post on X was, while this is happening, there are just a ton of people out there in the comments just screaming that the bull market is over. There will never be a bull market for altcoins. Things like Cardano are done. This confluence, this is the confluence of these two things, that negativity and the data back. This is not opinion. The data that you have here on the screen, the confluence of those two things, this is very bullish. I can tell you one thing. All my years of crypto, I've never seen the top of a bull market or the beginning of some absolutely crazy bear market. I never have seen it where a bunch of anonymous people in my comments were calling it. And this data, I would say, is more bullish than that. But the two things paired up, very bullish. Ethereum zoomed out on the weekly. I wanted to make note of something. I have these arrows back here because I was looking at this and I was like, man, this is incredible from a technical analysis perspective. Coming out of this record-breaking oversold environment. This has only happened 4 times on Ethereum's chart. And I mentioned on the S&P 500 chart, we're somewhere around here. We're somewhere around here. And I was noticing on the stock RSI, the quicker moving momentum oscillator on Ethereum, it's overbought, right? And I was like, Ethereum's either about to have a massive breakout because it's just entering overbought on this quicker moving momentum oscillator, and we have this lower high on the RSI, so much upside if we can break this trend. It might come back down, but what I wanted to point to your attention to kind of help navigate through that is what happened back here out of that tariff fear bear market. Ethereum, as you can see, hit this overbought area. And then it continued consolidating before its real breakout, right? And you notice the RSI here, it kind of came above that moving, it came above this moving average line, that purple line right here, out of oversold, and then revisited the moving average line and then continued higher. Now, if we go look at this, this is in play, and it's just something a word of caution. Ethereum might have a lower high. We might have to kind of test this moving average line similar to back then. You'll see the stock RSI kind of cruise down, and then maybe we're getting a breakout. That's just another form of caution. We are at a macro multi-year trend line resistance, but here's where things get fun. Ethereum is primed and ready for a breakout, and it might do so. If we start seeing Ethereum breaking into this apex, as I've been saying, I don't know if it's going to look like the pullback breaking in now. I don't know if it's going to be the higher low pullback and then breaking in, but I'm waiting for the move. And there's no guarantee if it will happen. I'm just tracking this and speculating, everybody. But as all of the data comes together and macro data, even outside of crypto, I'm waiting for Ethereum to absolutely break into this apex I'm waiting for a bullish catalyst on the Fed monetary side of things. I'm waiting for a bullish catalyst for, the tariff stuff that's going on with China. Any of these things could kickstart an altcoin bull market. It really could. And I'm talking back here, coming out of those March lows or out of the lows of the tariff fears, right? And this is just a matter of time for me as a macro investor. I wanted to do some analysis on Cardano too, maybe more on the short term, because I know there's a lot of people watching Cardano, and I wanted to speak to price action. This is a clip from, this says 3 weeks ago, May 17th. Check it out real quick. Like swing low to swing high. There's our higher low, Fibonacci, 64 cents to around 58 cents. This is a more macro Fibonacci, and that is in play. So this is something we've been tracking on the daily chart. And one thing that I noticed was the structure of ADA kind of in that uptrend, right? Higher highs, higher lows. We broke down. And obviously, not only did we break down, but we did test the Fibonacci. Let's see if it holds, right? Because if we start zooming out, you can just see there's not much support. We have no moving averages. There's no higher low Fibonacci. So we might test previous lows. If something's going on this week, it's a bearish week again. And I get it, everybody, for all these altcoins. But let's monitor. Let's watch. Let's see. Maybe ADA has to come back down and test again this range, right? Into the 60s. Even you notice the lower end of the range is 58 or so. So that's what I'm watching on ADA. But I just wanted to bring that up because this move that's playing out right there is something we've seen before. And I can go back to last cycle before the last parabolic bull run started. And I'm not saying it's going to play out this way, but swing low to swing high. ADA falling to a very similar higher low Fibonacci. If, by the way, we go look at our risk model for Cardano, let's bring it up real quick since I'm on it. That area where we had that higher low Fibonacci right here, check out the risk score. A 39, 38. Where are we right now? 37. So many similarities, everybody, from so many different angles. I'm just tracking the data. That's all I'm doing. And it is true. My opinion is bullish. My sentiment is bullish. But it's because of all this data. And I'm trying to manage my risk properly. I know most of you are too. And I appreciate all of you out there, the silent majority that watches my videos. And I appreciate that support because it's been something else lately. Let's just say that from a sentiment perspective, from what I've been seeing. But the data is looking good on the macro. Short-term volatility, as always in play. But wanted to share this with you today, this Saturday. I hope you're having a good weekend. Hit the subscribe, hit the like. If you're not in our intelligence system, check it out, everybody. I think it could be very helpful for you. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.